On today's episode of Locked On Wild, one win in their last 17 games. The Wild can't lose to the Sharks tonight, right? Plus, Brock Faber making bank. All that coming up on today's show. Let's hit that intro music.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast platform, so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, Isha Jahromi of the Sota Pod joins us as we take a look at tonight's matchup against the Los Angeles Kings, the Western Conference playoff picture in general, and we'll talk about the potential dollar figure for a Brock Faber extension. My name is Seth Topal, your daily Minnesota Wild insider, credentialed Wild media member, and joined, as we are every week, by the one and only Isha Jahromi for our Sota Pod sized, in this case, Thursday. Figured if we were going to record today before the game, might as well just let this one drop and get it out there before the game starts. So Sota Pod sized Thursday today. Isha, what's happening?
Not much, man. Like I said, best day of the week, best time of the week is recording a podcast with you, Seth. So happy to be here. And it should be easy money. Minnesota Wild against San Jose Sharks. Let's be honest. You know what's funny? Let me just say right off the bat, I was doing a little prep for the show here, reading some articles and things like that, and I was reading a Sharks based article from winnersandwhiners.com. Shout out to them. And no joke, it was the most you think you have it bad, Minnesota Wild fans? It was the most depressing article I've ever read. The whole thing was just like, the Sharks are so sad. The Sharks are so bad here. The Sharks are so bad here. And, and it was actually propping up the Wild. It was like, the Wild still have a glimmer of playoff hopes. Their offense is carrying them, and they're probably going to absolutely pepper us here tonight. This player's been doing good. I was reading the whole thing like, I can't believe this is a Sharks-based article. Hey, at least they're honest.
Yeah, like it is pretty bleak at this point in the season. I'm going to actually do a little bit of a rollback just to tell you how bad it has been, because as I teased right off the top, it's actually worse than I said. The Sharks have won one game in the last 18 games and two in the last 20. So let's just go back to the start of February and just take a look at where these teams are at. So the Minnesota Wild, since February 1st, 13-5-4. The San Jose Sharks, 2-15-3. The Sharks have been scoring just over 2.5 goals in that span. They've given up just over 4.5. They, ironically enough, have a 30% in their last 20 games. 30.2% power play in their last 20 games, which is, let's see, that might lead the league.
That is horrendous, is the word you're looking for.
It is third in the NHL in that span in 20 games, despite the fact they've only won 2 in that span. And in that same span, as mentioned, the Minnesota Wild's 13-5-4. They're scoring 3.23 goals per game, 2.86 goals against. And so you're talking about one of the worst teams in the league on an absolute, like, the radiator fell off the car run here recently. But what do we know about what happened the last time these two teams matched up, Isha, is that it took a king-sized helping of Kirill Kaprizov to get this one done. And it's especially concerning in my perspective, because what do we know is coming up on Saturday? The Minnesota Wild play the Vegas Golden Knights. And so it should be a complete walk in the park here tonight. But that Vegas game is pretty big. And so I hope it's not a trap game, but we've seen this play out before.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I don't think that they're going to just close it up and try to, employ that style here. I think they're not going to go balls to the wall like they hopefully should do against Vegas. Now, I'm not saying abandon defense. I'm just saying try to play the best game that they can. I don't think they're going to close it up completely in this one, mostly just because they're fresh, right? They haven't played all week. Their last game was Saturday against the Blues. They played hard in that one. So actually this break couldn't come at a better time, especially playing the Sharks, then going into another game against a very good Western team in Vegas, a must-win game. Now, every game is must-win down this stretch, and I just say that because, if you lose against Vegas, it's over, and if you lose against Vegas, I mean, all Minnesota Wild fans' dreams are going to be crushed. Now, if you lose to the Sharks, then we might as well just, pack it in and not even play the rest of the season. Right. And most of the time, I'm like, look, this is the National Hockey League. Anything can happen in this sport. In this case, this Thursday, no. The Wild are going to beat the Sharks. I don't think they're going to play as boring of a style as maybe, you suggested there. But at the same time, are they going to be giving Kirill Kaprizov all the minutes out there? Are they going to let, some of the younger guys, are they going to let the second line? Are they going to let the third line roll a little bit more? Maybe. Do I think that's going to translate in a boring type of game? No. Now, if they're up by 3 goals going into the third, okay, that's another story. That's the game of hockey. That's expected. But I think the first 2 periods they're going to come out swinging.
Joel Eriksson and Jonas Brodin back in the lineup here tonight. Lineup questions because evidently there is a forward who is banged up, but credit to the NHL for the cloud of secrecy that we get around injuries. That is as much as we know. There is a forward that could be out of the lineup. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And so you get the reunion of Kaprizov, Boldy, and Eriksson.
Love it
for sure. That and rightfully so. As much as we want to see Marco Rossi continue to get those top line opportunities, you're talking about a line combination that was amongst the best in the NHL when they were together. And there just is not a scenario in which you're going to break that group up. So the fact that they're back together, we're going to see that group for the rest of the season, because if you're trying to get this back on track for next year, that's your go get them line going into next season. And so keeping that continuity together is important. And so we're going to see that combination. We'll still see Marco Rossi get those second line center minutes. Now, who's on his line remains to be seen. But
if Zuccarello, I've heard whispers that Zuccarello might be the one out. So maybe we see him with Hartman and I don't know, Johansson. That's just off the top of my head. What I'd like to see though is if Beckman's going to get some time. I know Murat's going to be in the lineup. I know there were some whispers that he might not be in the lineup, but it's from what I've seen on Twitter and reading some articles in prep for this show and in prep for the game, it looks like he is going to be in the lineup. I would like to see Murat, Beckman, and I don't know, Lettieri or Foligno. I don't really care. One of those two. I think that would be good, whether you call that the third line or fourth line.
Yeah, and I think the thing that is key for me is to just continue to see who's Nadinov get those center opportunities. I mean, I would like to see him get, a cup of tea as a wing too, because I think especially if some of his offense starts to come around, the ability to play in multiple spots could help. But
Yeah.
if he centers that third line, Rossi centers that second line, Eriksson X centers that top line, like I'm perfectly
Dude,
fine with that.
I'm so happy you mentioned that, because for a team that historically hasn't had center depth, hasn't had a top center, bro, now you have a 1-2-3 punch of Joel Eriksson Ek, Marco Rossi, who's still very young, and a young up-and-coming center who is kind of in this case, not a Swiss Army knife. He's more of a Soviet Army knife in Marat, who's Nadinov. And dude, that is amazing, especially given the type of roles that they play. Whereas Eriksson can do it all. He can do it all. He can play the two-way game. He can score. He can make plays. Where then you have Rossi, who's more of that traditional, mold of a top center. Despite him being tiny, he still wins battles up against the boards. He doesn't get knocked off the puck in the corner or even in open play as much as some of the other smaller players like a Tyler Johnson, historically would. And, that's just another small center that I could think of off the top of my head. And then you have who's Nadinov, who is, coming in with the assumption and with the background, with the resume of being more of a two-way guy with a little bit of offensive flair if he needs to play the wing or needs to be put in those situations. You think about those three a year, 2 years down the road, man, they're a dangerous team to play against.
Yeah, that is, and especially if Rossi starts to kind of follow that Eriksson Ek development train, because it took Joel Eriksson Ek a little while to get going at the NHL level. And so if Rossi follows that path, if who's Nadinov follows that, basically if the centers that we have start to follow the Eriksson Ek development plan and just kind of mold their game off of him, seems I'm telling you that is a great way to kind
absolutely
of change that center depth.
Well, I would say that Rossi's even ahead of Joel Eriksson Ek's development, and that's coming off a whole year of no hockey due to his health issues, right? Because Joel Eriksson Ek 2-3 years in was like 17, then 29 points, and I know he played like a little bit less games. I think he played like in the 60, 70 range at that point. I don't know if it was injury or just being called up or not. This is just off the top of my head. I was looking at it earlier today, and that's why I just wanted to comment on it. Whereas Rossi, and I have it up in front of me right now, 37 points, 20 goals, and this is, a true full rookie season.
Yeah, he has been fantastic this year. So all of a sudden that down the middle starting to look a little better for the Wild here. Now we'll take a look at what exactly could happen for the Western Conference. Basically, what I'm going to do is tell you if the Wild do this, all Vegas has to do is this down the rest of the stretch. So we'll continue today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Say hello to March Madness and Busted Brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every single game of the tournament. The Sweet 16 is starting tonight, so you can bet on big upsets or seeing those number one seeds continue to roll through the tournament. It is time to go dancing on America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My suggestion is to put your $5 bet on the Minnesota Wild tonight to beat the Sharks. Then you have a free roll for the rest of the weekend to put it on tomorrow night's games. You can even go take a look at the rest of the NHL slate as well. Just get yourself that $5 winner on the Minnesota Wild here tonight. Then you have $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who you think is going to win the entirety of the NCAA tournament. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel.com/locked-on. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, make sure you check out the Sota Pod and all of the offerings that the Sota Pod has throughout the week, whether it be checking in on college hockey with MNCAA, whether it be listening to Spoked Z talk about Wild prospects and the NHL at large.
And The Bachelor, apparently, too.
Oh, is he really going down that road too?
Oh, dude, last Hoppy and him went down the wormhole and just basically a sweetheart Minnesota gal made it to the finals, but in textbook Minnesota fashion, she was not picked. So they compared The Bachelor to Minnesota sports. It was incredible.
Honestly, that analogy tracks. So that works. But yeah, your Bachelor leader is the Sota Pod. So make sure to check them out. Make sure to give them a sub if you have not already. Locked on Wild audience, head straight over to the Sota Pod's YouTube channel. Give them a like and a subscription if you have not already.
Hey, Seth, speaking of college hockey, you want to win $5 on a lock tonight, too? Your Minnesota Gophers are going to destroy Omaha tonight as well. So there's a lock for your $5 as well. And on the latest Fellowship of the Rink episode with Joe Smith and Hoppy, they had the Middlestat brothers. That's right. John and Luke together on the show. Wishing them the best of luck tonight. And they are absolute beauties, man. Probably the most loose interview thus far. Two brothers. Yeah. And they told the story of how they found out Casey was traded. And it's awesome. So there's a tease. Go check that out.
Going to listen to that while I edit this episode. So great plug for another piece of the Sota Pod puzzle, Fellowship of the Rinks. All right, Isha, let's take a look at the math here for the Minnesota Wild, because they face daunting odds. Playoff percentage chances are in single digits for the Minnesota Wild at this point in the season. And so let's just look at this. So the Vegas Golden Knights have 86 points right now. They have played 72 games. So the Minnesota Wild do have a game in hand. And let's say the Wild beat the Sharks tonight to get to 79 points. They're 7 points behind. And if the Wild win out in their final 10 games, that would get them 20 points to get to 99 on the season. If they win out, the Vegas Golden Knights only need then to do two things. 13 points. If they end up with more regulation wins, or just wins in general, than the Minnesota Wilds, and the two teams tie, Vegas is in. So then you can just kind of go down the list from there. Okay, if the Wild don't win out and they pick up 18 of the final 20 points, then Vegas can only get to 90, probably 96, and so on and so forth. And so, not only that, but the fact that you got to leapfrog the St. Louis Blues. Yes, the Wild do play Vegas twice before the season is done, but this is where that math comes in. You got to find a way to make up 7 points. And because you have 34 wins right now, Vegas has 39. You got to find a way to have 1 point more than them by the time the season is over.
I mean, it's what we've been saying for the last couple of weeks. You literally, and now it's not even just like a figure of speech, sports lingo. You literally have to win every single game. And It is not easy in the National Hockey League to go on a 10-game win streak, even if you are at the top of the league. The Edmontons, the Canucks, all of them have gone on good runs. And then, there's that one speed bump. We've seen it all season. We see it every year. It's a pipe dream, let's be perfectly honest, but we're going to be rooting for them till the end.
I love Money Puck. I love Money Puck so much, because looking at the preview for this game, it says it has the different scenarios, percentage wise, for instance, if the Wild beat the Sharks in regulation, their playoff percentage goes to 8.8%. If they lose in regulation, it's down to 3.2. Then for the Sharks, they say this is a completely meaningless game for the Sharks.
Oh, based. I love it.
It's just,
like they're not even going to
amazing.
entertain it. They're like, listen, like, yeah, Money Puck's based, dude. I love them. They're my new favorite like website for hockey right now. I mean, I'm a hockey DB loyalist. I know, yeah, I'm the hipster of the group. I'm not going on elite prospects. It slows down my computer, so screw them. I'm a hockey DB loyalist, and now Money Puck's like my new go-to.
Yeah, Money Puck is just, it's amazing. But
I just brought it up right now. That's amazing.
It's amazing. Like, I mean, we've got the odds, and I know the odds change depending on where you go. They have different formulas for how to calculate these types of things. Like, I think The Athletic has one percentage number. You know, NHL.com has probably another. But the one that I go with is Money Puck, because they just lay it out for you right in front. Like, if the Wild win, they're at 8.8%, which means 91% chance that they don't make it. If they lose to the Sharks, they're down to 3.2%. And so
down 4.3. Yeah,
like this is just kind of where we've been at for the last couple of weeks. Like you said, Isha, is that it's just we went from where you kind of control your destiny to now it is completely out of your hands. Even if you win out,
you need other teams to lose. Yeah.
Yes. Even if you win out, it's still not going to be enough because you're 7 points back at this point. And so if you're Vegas, you basically just need to go 500 to get in the rest of the way. Now, St. Louis Blues are 3 points ahead of the Wild at this point. So they have a slightly larger chance. But I think at this point, Vegas is, I think at this point they're basically in. Like, I don't think either St. Louis or the Minnesota Wild are going to catch them at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super confident with the Blues either. They're kind of in the same situation as the Wild, though they blew my expectations out of the water this year. I thought they were going to be, more of a 500 team, win one, lose one, look good one night, not look good the other. But they put together a few good runs this year as well, and have just kind of continued to play that St. Louis Blues style that unfortunately we're used to here in Minnesota. But yeah, man. And again, I lived through this nightmare when I lived out west in Vancouver, especially after the glory years of the Canucks, post like 2013, basically from 2013 to 2020. It was this time of the year. This was it. It was like, if there's any hope, they have to win the last 10, 15 games or they need another team to bottom out, or like Calgary at the time, or LA, or not, I guess not LA, but some of the other Western teams, Vegas, to lose games. So this isn't new to me as a hockey fan. It's just new as, someone who's been covering the Minnesota Wild now for the last, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and the other thing too that has been a wrench in this plan is Vegas has had games that have gone to overtime with the other teams that are in front of
getting
the
points
Wild.
As well. I know, dude.
So
that's like, it's just a dagger. Like, that's a dagger in the heart for Wild fans.
You're stacking 3-point games together, and you can't afford to do that. Vegas right now, according to Money Puck, they're at 89.6% to get in. If they win, and they play tonight too against, I believe, Winnipeg, who's on a little bit of a skid. If they win, their odds are up to 93.64%.
Oof.
That is, by my account, by my guess, an A. Like, if we're doing letter grades, that's an A. If you're doing letter grades for the Wild's playoff chances, that is, come to the principal's office immediately. But
that is Money Puck's. They don't have a chance.
Yeah, it's Jover, as I've been saying. I don't know why.
Seth, Money Puck, they're being somewhat respectful to the Wild here. As they say, this is a pretty important game. I mean, honestly, their editors probably could have just been like, "This is a must win." You fools.
Can I just go on a must win game tangent?
Please.
Here before then we talk about the potential for Brock Faber's contract to be larger than we had anticipated. I get it. Like, you don't have to. You're not mathematically eliminated per se if you don't win this game. But can we just stop dancing around don't necessarily like to call it a must-win game, because it
They all are.
you have to have it. Like, there's no other way to say it. So
Yep.
that just kind of just drives me batty sometimes. But we will finish the show by talking about the potential for Brock Faber's contract to be a hefty one, because Michael Russo dove into the potential numbers here today on The Athletic. And so we'll look at some of the comps and see where he may slot in as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home the win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, make sure to check out the Sota Pod and their full array of content throughout the week, hitting you with a little something different every single day of the week, including my my appearance.
Both performance and appearance.
Let's be honest. It is definitely an appearance. So that's on Monday. And then, as mentioned, you've got MNCAA, you've got Judd's Buds, you got just a bunch of different things hitting you all week long. So make sure to check out the Sota Pod and give them a sub, because I said so. And we'll just continue to generate and create elite Minnesota Wild content for you all the way into the off season. Like, we don't just, once the season is done, we don't just go into cryo sleep. Like, we still keep hitting you with elite level content throughout the week. So make sure to give them a sub, and make sure that you are sitting down while we talk about the Brock Faber extension. It's going to happen. Now, it can't officially start to take shape until, I believe, this off season, like next league year, is when this can start to come to fruition. Michael Russo had a very nice write-up in The Athletic about just the scope of what this contract might look like and the names in which he has invoked, because let's be honest here, Brock Faber is doing a ton for this team because of injuries to Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin. He is playing top pairing minutes defensively. He was, up until recently, top power play quarterback. He's still power play quarterback, but it's just for power play unit number 2. And I'm not sure necessarily that has to do with his struggles per se, as more so just Declan Chisholm's been pretty good in that spot. So I don't think that's a ton of him not being able to handle it. More so just trying to kind of get a different look at this point in the season. But he's playing power play. He's playing penalty kill. He's playing in key spots down the stretch, playing in overtime. There is literally nothing that Brock Faber has not been asked to do for the Minnesota Wild this season.
In a rookie year, dude.
Yeah,
That's like
exactly.
That's the craziest asterisk of all of it.
And you're looking at a guy who I think we all agree is going to improve offensively. Like, he's got room to improve his offensive game. His defensive game is
elite already.
Yeah, like he is coming in and he is more than holding his own. And so just because of how these deals work in the NHL, he's going to go from an ELC to top money.
Yeah, no PK Subban bridge contract here.
No. And you know, he's doing all this and he's playing 30 minutes a night for the most part. Like, it's unreal what he is being asked to do. And so the player comparables that Michael Russo put out there start with Aaron Ekblad and the deal that he signed in 2016. 8 years, $7.5 million a season. And you get Quinn Hughes, who signed a 6-year deal for $7.85. Thomas Chabot, 8 years, 8x8. Jake Sanderson with an 8 by $8.05 million. Owen Power, 7 by $8.35. Miro Heiskanen, 8 by $8.45. Cale Makar, 6 by $9. Charlie McAvoy, 8 by $9.5. Adam Fox, 7 by $9.5. And Zach Werenski, 6 by $9.583 million. And I think we would all have assumed, even looking at those players, that he was going to slot somewhere in between, like in the 8 million-ish range. Well, as Russo points out, with all that Faber has been asked to do and how he has responded in doing it, you're probably looking more at 9 now.
Yeah. And given where the market is today, like that's his value. That's his value. My biggest comparison is, Drew Doughty coming out of his rookie deal. Now he actually waited until the 11th hour. He waited till the first official game of the season before signing the contract. Remember, he sat out all of training camp. Now, if you take into account now that contracts are going up, inflation is not only food, gas prices for us, it's also NHL contracts. I would say, and he signed a 7-7 coming out of his rookie deal. Mind you, he played way more games, but the fact that Brock Faber has already checked all the boxes, this is clearly not a fluke, especially because it's not offense, it's defense, and yet the points are comparable to that of a Rasmus Dahlin coming out of his rookie season. I would argue a way better rookie season than Rasmus Dahlin. Now, Rasmus Dahlin had a monster season after getting 40 points in 50 games. And then signed the 11.5 AAV deal. So I don't think he's going to get that, but I would say 9's okay, given that some of the other comparisons recently are that of Rasmus Dahlin, are that of, Zach Werenski, who's 9.5, for example, coming off his, and then you name the other ones, Adam Fox, Charlie McAvoy. I just laugh at the Seth Jones one, but anyways, that's conversation for another day. But
we don't even talk about that one.
But yeah, I would say poor guy, but he's just swimming in coins right now.
He's
Scrooge
got
McDuck.
He's got more money than he could ever spend in a lifetime. So he's doing okay. That's I think the point that needs to be taken away from this, Isha, is that you look at these deals and even look at Aaron Ekblad in 2016. What he would sign for today.
It would have been 9.5. It would have been 9.5.
Even Makar, even Werenski, even Heiskanen, those guys would all be approaching 10 today. Every contract that gets signed of the big variety resets the market. Yep. And so you see this with quarterbacks in the NFL all the time. One of the premier quarterbacks signs a mega deal. And the next guy in line, it just starts licking his chops because he says, all right, that's my benchmark. And so this is just how these mega extensions work, is that, the Sandersons, the Owen Powers, that sets the market. And so Brock Faber getting 9, probably an 8 by 9. And look, he's 21. So this is how the Minnesota Wild have operated by and large with these extensions too. You pay a little bit more on the front end. If Brock Faber continues to improve his offensive game, and let's say in 2 or 3 years, his offensive game matches his defensive game, you've got like a $13 million a year player right there.
Oh, yeah.
Like if he can be a 15, 20 goal scorer, playing 25, 30 minutes a night, manning your power play, top penalty kill.
Norris conversation.
1,000% Norris conversation at that point. Like that's just the going rate. Now, the thing that
I agree
is the thing that's going to be key to watch with this going forward is what this means for especially Jared Spurgeon. Because now his trade protections have dropped. Like now it's just I want to say it's a 10 or a 15 team.
Yeah, the limited no move.
That's the one to watch.
Yeah.
Because
and I mean, every team is cyclical, right? Like there's going to be a point where he's priced out of the team because of young guys, and that's a good problem to have. It's no disrespect to Spurgeon. He's getting older. He's getting banged up. You know, there's going to be a playoff team that comes calling. The Wild are going to retain on his last year. I mean, that's just the nature of the game. But yes, totally, that's something to keep our eyes out. I will play devil's advocate in regards to one point here, and that's Brock Faber's only played 1 year, and a lot of these comps, they're coming off at least 2 seasons.
Yep.
So that might be the one thing that the Wild push back on with his agents and say, you're totally right. He's done everything. He's checked off all the boxes. But if he regresses in the beginning of the season, then regress even just a little bit. We can use that, and even in the regression aside, we can just use the point that his body of work might not be enough to get that contract because we haven't seen the sustainability yet. So there is that, and for better, for worse, that might actually help the team.
Yeah,
in the long run.
My big thing is no, I'm not even gonna make the joke. No, that's I was gonna say I just want to see what kind of trade protections he gets. Ducks.
Well, I mean, this isn't Mike Gillis running the team, so it's not going to be like anything crazy. No, but like I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that the Wild push back on, his agent and his management. It's like, look, yeah, he's checked all the boxes. He's going to get paid. We're going to lock him up, but we're not giving him 11. We're not giving him 10 because he didn't have the body work that Rasmus Dahlin had in comparison. He didn't have the body work that Adam Fox had in comparison. But we believe in him, so here's the friggin' 9 by 8, 9 by 7, whatever.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Like it may be that they agree to the tentative framework before the season starts and just don't sign, because he's going to be a restricted free agent after next season. So they still have his rights. So it's not like they're going to let this completely spiral out of control, but it would be something you'd want to avoid, to throw all this money at a guy and then all of a sudden have him go from like 8 goals and 40 plus points to where he has like 2 goals and all of a sudden he's at 20 points and you're like, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah. On the other hand, though, if they can't see eye to eye, like he ain't reporting to camp, dude. Like he's gonna sit out like Drew Doughty, and I mean, I think he might be pushed. Because he just seems like such a good guy. Like him push back on his agent, but I'm sure his agent will be like, dude, I'm gonna literally like lock you in your house, like weld the door shut from the outside. You ain't leaving. You ain't going to practice. You ain't talking to the boys. Make your money. Now, I don't think it comes to that. Don't get me wrong. No. I don't think it comes to that, but still. No.
This is the thing that happens when you have good young players, is that eventually you have to pay them.
It's a good problem to have. Yeah. And you know what? The best thing about this is Eriksson X seemingly popped right after his extension.
Yeah.
So at least there's savings there, right?
I remember even when I wasn't really following hockey a ton, I remember asking hockey friends what they thought of that deal at the time, and everybody was like, it's an awful lot. That's a lot of term to give a guy. And I mean,
the dollars were fine, but it was like, that's a long time. And then that season it was like,
it's like, okay.
Oh my God, what a steal.
This is a steal. So
absolute steal.
We'll keep an eye on it. But Isha, a pleasure as always.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining here again this week. Reminder, you can catch my appearance over on the Sota Pod for Monday, live in-person appearance that we'll be recording this weekend.
Hell yeah. That's the plan. Be
on the lookout for that, dropping Monday on the Sota Pod channels. This episode will drop before puck drop, so they'll take you right up to the start of the game. And then, of course, we'll have you covered after the fact with another Locked on Wild postcast. So make sure to like this video, make sure to subscribe, and make sure to follow along with us as we guide you through the rest of the season here at Locked on Wild. You can find
Gophers.
Yes, go Gophers tonight. Go get that dub. And we'll keep you covered with new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.